Prithvi, I have a quick question. This is Chitra here.
Yeah, hi Chitra.
Yeah, Prithvi. The thing is that today in the lab we had one activity in which we have to just load the files from the S3 bucket like movie.csv, everything. So I was just
Uh,
wondering.
can you, your voice was like bit not clear,
It's very
Chitra.
slow. Can you hear me right now?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing is that today morning in the lab we had one activity. So it was like we have to load file from the raw bucket and I mean to say like that, and then we have to do shift it to the process database. So I was just I had one doubt that if we are doing all these things in the AWS, then why do we require Snowflake? Is there any difference? I mean to say, why generally we want to go for Snowflakes?
See, the thing was actually you're asking basically since we are placing all the files in Snowflake S3, why do we require Snowflake, right?
Yeah, because all
Okay.
these activities we did in the AWS also, we created a raw bucket and there from there also we postponed it to the destination bucket, which is the process bucket, everything. So why people prefer Snowflakes or people can prefer AWS also. And as far as I know, AWS also have Snowflakes in it. So why don't we go with AWS Snowflakes? Is that and the Snowflakes same or is both are different?
No, see, AWS, Snowflake, and Snowflake is all same. Okay, it is nothing different. Snowflake is launched in AWS. Okay, so whenever as I was telling initially, right? Whenever you take Enterprise Edition version, you basically you give the AWS account. Okay, so all that Snowflake account will be associated with your AWS. So in the URL, right? Right now, since this is personal account, you just see this snowflakecomputing.com and everything. Okay, so if you get the enterprise edition version, right, you would be seeing your region, your account name, right, your project name and everything. So that is completely different actually. So you'll see how an AWS service is launched, right? In that way you'll be seeing the URL and all. So it is all the same, right? Snowflake is launched in any of the cloud. Okay, you can launch in AWS, you can launch in Azure, you can launch in GCP and everywhere. Okay.
Okay.
So when you launch in AWS, see right now also if I'm showing you guys this one, right? This is internally linked to the AWS account. But since this is a personal account, okay, so they would be creating one public AWS account and then they'll be creating tagging to that. Okay, that is why the reason you don't see any regions and all. If you go here, right, for any of the Snowflake account, you can see the region which I launched into. US West Oregon. Okay, whatever AWS regions you have, you can connect to that region and then you can launch it there. Okay, now this is running in cloud. If you can see here, right? So US West region it was running. So you can select whatever region you need. So it is all same. Okay, so Snowflake, AWS, whatever is there and whatever you are seeing right now, it is all the same. It is launched in AWS, but the URL you see is different. So the only thing you can access Snowflake is through this one, through the URLs, right? Once they create you the account and all, they'll be providing the URL to connect. So you should be connecting to that URL so that you'll be seeing this web UI and everything. You can access databases and everything. But ultimately the everything, right? Whatever you create data, whatever you process and everything, whenever Snowflake is creating clusters and all, it all runs in AWS. So backend system was that.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah,
so
please go ahead.
So it's also according to a company which uses Snowflakes or AWS services. So is that the process, like the company does the same thing with the AWS and Snowflakes as well, right?
Correct. See, AWS, when you consider, right, there are a lot of services in AWS. Okay, so if you take particularly the S3 file system and Snowflake, those two are two different entities. Okay, S3 is just the object storage, what you do. You cannot query from that. You cannot do anything using S3. It is only like file system. You need to have a wrapper on top of that to query the data. correct? I mean, you need to write some Python code, or you need to launch, some other programming language to read the data from S3 and then show it to you. Okay, or you need to use any of the services in AWS, right? Like Redshift or any other databases to read the data from S3 and show to you. Okay, Snowflake is completely different. Snowflake is like data warehouse. Okay, you can store a lot of data, you can query the data, you can use this for reporting, you can even run stored procedures on top of the data. So there are a lot of things, right? So it is completely different from S3. S3 is the object storage what you have, and Snowflake is like different. It is data warehouse. So how you work with Oracle database and all, it is like that, like it is a database, like you store the data, you process the data. Okay, but bulk loading, bulk processing is like very fast in Snowflake. So it uses multiple clusters and all. It doesn't rely on one system and then process the data. It works on multiple systems, and then it takes that power of parallelism, right? So yeah, that is difference between other database systems. You need to compare between databases when you take Snowflake or data warehouses. You shouldn't be comparing with the object storage. So object storage is completely different from data warehouse. So yeah. Although in Snowflake, right? In Snowflake, we wouldn't be storing any files, Chitra. It is only like, see this internal loading, external loading and all. As I was telling you guys, like we don't use that very extensively, right? It is only for your analysis purpose, and then, some of the use cases where you need to read data from S3. Reading data from S3, I meant it is only for like analysis purpose. You don't really, create an external stage, read the data from S3 and then process that data. Ultimately, you'll use any other programming language to load data into table, and then only you do all the processing, right? You don't simply push the bucket to, file to S3 bucket, and then already my external stage is created on that, so I don't use the data directly. As I was initially telling, right, architecture, how it lies. When you get a file to S3, you don't directly read that using Snowflake. Okay, you use programming language or like Spark framework, right? Read the file, process the data in Spark itself, and then write back to Snowflake or S3.
Okay, yeah, got it. You got it, Putin. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions, guys, or we can jump on to the topic today? Okay, so I'll take it as a no. So today we'll cover these things, guys, like so loading, unloading, right? As I told, this is a feature which Snowflake has. So which will not be available in any of the relational databases and all, where you load file, where you read the data from other platforms like Google cloud platforms like S3, Azure, GCP and everything. So that feature is available in this Snowflake, where you can load the files into an internal stage, external stage, and then read the data from there. Okay, so create a table out of that data and do some of the analysis out of that. Okay, so so first I'll start with the internal stage. So internal stage, it is just like creating one of the stage a layer in Snowflake. So there are certain commands to do that. Okay, so one of the command would be, yeah, just a second, guys. Yeah, so if you can see here, right? Yeah, just a second. Yeah, if you can see here, right? I'm using role developer. Okay, creator, replace stage, my local stage. File format would be CSV format. Okay, so this CSV format we were creating using this creator replace file format. Okay, and CSV format is like CSV format comma is of type CSV. For field delimiter would be comma. Okay, so this is one of the format which I created earlier. So this is the command which we used for that. Okay, create or replace format CSV, field delimiter would be comma. Okay, so this is the internal format which we create. Now what we need to do, once that is done, that format is available, we need to create or replace my local stage. Okay, so just a second, guys. So let's use this itself using to create. So when there are no permissions, right? So try giving the grants as we discussed in the initial things, right? So if that is related to the account admin, what we need to do is demo schema. Okay. Yeah. So when I gave the grants, now it should be working. Okay, earlier what happened was like we created these file formats with account admin, right? So usually when you account admin is the highest privilege, as I told you guys. Okay, so developer is like a role which we created initially, if you remember in the first day. So that developer is like we cloned using sysadmin role. So sysadmin would be the lower level of account admin. It doesn't have access to whatever objects created by account admin. So we need to give particular grants if you want to access that using some other role. So right now I'm creating this local stage using developer role, so I need to use this one to do that. Okay, so once this is done, what we need to do was like guys, there are steps to downloading SnowSQL. I downloaded it to my Windows machine. Okay, so these are the steps which we need to follow. Okay, so there are certain ways, right? You can using curl command, or you can directly, I'll walk you through how I did that. So in Snowflake, if you go to help, right, you have something called downloads. Okay, if you go to download, we have CLA client here. So you should just give Snowflake repository, Linux, Windows, and OS. Go to Bootstrap, go to the version you need. If it is Windows machine, go to Windows. Okay, so what version of thing you need? So I took the latest version which is there here, 1.2.20, which is the latest Snowflake client we have. If you give this, it will download one installable file. Install that in your machine. Once you do that, you should be able to query this. Okay, if you give this, right, SnowSQL-u, this command, you should be able to connect to your SQL. Okay, to your account, to your username, to your account. So whenever to find the account, this is the account which you have in the URL. Okay, so once you give this command SnowSQL and this one, so you should be good to go. Okay, so what I'll do, guys, is like since this is like there are a lot of things, right? So I'll make everything note of these things, and then I'll ping you at the end of this call in the same Zoom call, so that you guys can take notes of everything. Okay, it should be useful in your lab. Yeah. And once this is done, this is connected to this warehouse. So there is no database and schema, right? You can use the commands what we use in the database itself. The same way we can use. This is just graphical UI which you see. This is just the command line interface. So it's all the same. You can have the same command, select star, select a table, create a table, and everything you can do here. Okay. But put commands, get commands, and all that should be executed only using SnowSQL client UI. Okay, so basically from CLI you can use that. You cannot run those commands using the worksheets. So that is why the reason we were connecting to Snowflake client. Okay, so now my schema and database are ready. So I just need to execute the command which is there. So in local, I have one of the file which is created. So this is the sample file. If you see here, right? So this is the sample file which I created. So this has these many records in it. Okay, so these records we will basically this file we will load into internal stage. Okay, so for that the command was like put. Okay, so I'm mentioning the file because this is my local file system. Okay, so if you are loading something from S3, you need to give S3 here, S3 colon and then slash and the bucket name, directory and all. We'll be seeing that in the further things, right? We'll be seeing that. Once that is done, give the location where your file is there. Okay, and then give your stage location. So this is the stage we gave, right? Earlier, like my local stage is the stage which I created. So we can just use that itself to do that. Okay. So put this file into that stage and then it should be done. Yeah, if you see here, so file is uploaded. Okay, so that you can see using list command, right? ls at my local stage, if you give, you can see whether the file is uploaded or not. See here, file is uploaded now. So it is uploaded to the zip file of size 128, and there is some hash ID which is created on top of the data, and then last modified is this one. Okay, so now you'll see this file in your local file system. Okay, in Snowflake. Okay, so let me list this bucket, right? Yeah, so you can see here, right? The same information what we saw there, the same information is present here as well. Okay, so so guys, like once this is done, right, this data we need to load into table using the copy command. So that one I'll show you guys with the S3. It is all the same, right? So this is the thing which is there. This command, using this command we need to load. So S3 would be a good one to go use loading the data, because that is somewhat difficult than this one. So once this is loaded into internal stage, it is like internal stage in Snowflake is like temporary location where you store the files. Once the file is available, you just need to load into table using this simple command, like copy into this one from this S3 stage, my local stage. You need to give type of CSV and what file name it was. So it will load into the table. So for that, what you need to do is you need to have the schema created up ahead, right? So if you see this file sample stage upload, this is some sample data, right? So what you need to do is you just need to give column names for this table. Okay, what are all, how many fields are there? Like this is 1 field, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields we have, right? You need to create a table with all these 5 fields, and then you need to give that in the copy command to load the data into the table. Yeah, once this is done, the major thing was like setting up the client, okay, Snowflake client, and then you need to switch it to your DB schema and then run this command. Okay, you might face some permission issues and all. Guys, if you have SSL protected in your system, disable that and do that. Okay, most of your working laptops and all, like if you are connected to your client machines and all, you might not be able to do this, because SSH would be like that it would be restricted, right, when you connect to HTTPS and
Hello.
We also can't hear Rajan. Nobody can hear you.
Looks like we lost
I
him.
think he kicked out.
Did any of you got recordings? Because I just checked now. It is not.
No, it's not in the folder.
No one of us got.
No, the
Maybe we should
recording.
check Sudeep.
Okay.
Also, did any of you get today's recording from lab?
Venkat?
Yep.
No.
Okay.
So you were talking about the error that we might face, that the CLI is not allowing us to use the HTTP.
Correct. Yeah. So from the personal machine, you should be able to connect to Snowflake database, and then you can execute the put command. There will not be any problems. Okay. So that is what is the thing, right? From local machine, that should be pretty simple to connect. But connecting from S3, there are certain steps which we need to do. I'll walk through those steps. So these steps, I already configured that in AWS. I'll once again show you guys, but I won't submit that thing. I'll show you how to do that. Okay. So this took me almost like 3 hours to do. So there are multiple issues, and then we were resolving that. So I'll show you in my AWS account, right? How did we do that? So first thing is, we need to create the integration basically. Okay. So when you are connecting your Snowflake and S3, there should be one integration which should be there, right? Like it's a kind of permission, right? Whatever files you load in S3 should be available in my Snowflake. That is what you're telling to the system. Okay. To do that, you have multiple ways. Like you can give username, password, or you can give integration thing between Snowflake and S3, so that whenever you upload a file in S3, that will be available in Snowflake if you refresh the stage. Okay. So that kind of integration we need to do between Snowflake and the S3 using certain roles and policies which you need to create. So there are steps which Snowflake already gave in documentation. I'll walk through these steps, right? So initially what we need to do is we need to create a bucket in S3. Okay. So once that bucket is available, right? So I have already created one sample bucket in S3. So creating buckets and all, I think in lab, you guys already did that, right? In the initial days of S3. So, or do you guys need any assistance here? Like S3 bucket creation is already done is what I hear. So
yeah, we know how to create the bucket.
Yeah. So this is like any other bucket, right? The simple bucket which I created, and I uploaded certain files which we use in the further steps, right, to read the data and then perform some things. So I uploaded all the things into that bucket right now. Okay. First thing what we need to do is like create IAM policy. Okay. So log into AWS management console. Like IAM will log into that IAM, right? So search IAM here. So go to this one. So first thing what you need to do is like initially we need to check which region Snowflake is launched into. Okay, you can launch in various regions, right? So mine is launched in US West region. Okay, so this is important now. So going here, you just need to go to account settings. Okay, under account settings, you need to just go down under endpoints, right? Make sure US West region is active. Okay, so here if you see US West is what we launched into, right? Make sure that US West region is active. So if you go down, this is active. Okay, so if this is not active, go and activate it. Okay, you'll if it is not active, right, you'll have the active hyperlink created here. Just give active there. That is what they were telling in the steps, right? So you just need to go to IAM. Okay, and then choose the account settings, choose the region where you have launched your Snowflake. Okay, choose basically active if the status is inactive. Choose active. So basically you need to activate that. Only then you'll be able to connect to do the integration between Snowflake and AWS. Okay, now you need to choose the policies here and then create a policy now. Okay, that policies we need to link to the role, and then that role will be associated with a Snowflake account, so that you should be able to do that. Okay, now I already created one Snowflake access, right? So what you need to do is create a policy. Click create policy here. Okay, follow these steps one by one, guys, in your lab session. So it should be pretty simple. Okay, so click on the JSON tab. In the policies you have JSON tab. Okay, in the JSON tab you already have one sample one, right? So instead of that, what you need to do, paste this complete thing. Okay, this is the thing which we use for Snowflake. So what it tells was, so in S3, put object, get object version, delete object version. This all will be available for this role policy which you create. Sorry. Okay, now we are going to create a policy. which will have access to do all these steps in AWS. Okay, to the resource, what resource you are going to connect. So this resource should be your bucket name and what directory you are going to give the permission to. Okay, it can be anything, guys. Like you can give your bucket name and directory. You can give star as well, so that all the directories in that will be accessible. Whatever directory you give, only to that directory you will have access to. Okay, please make sure the directory which you give here should be used everywhere. And star giving, all the things in that directory will be accessible in the Snowflake. Whenever I tell accessible, that would be in the Snowflake, because right now whatever policy we are creating, that should be assigned to a Snowflake role. Okay, now hello listing bucket and this one to the bucket and whatever thing you give, right? And the prefix would be your folder name again. So the note section gives you clearly, make sure to replace bucket and prefix with your actual bucket name and the folder path. If you don't have any folder, give star. Okay, so that's what you need to paste here, and then give next, and then you need to submit it. So let me show you which I created. I'll show you the JSON file so that you'll be able to understand, correlate with that S3. Okay, now S3 access is the role which I created. Okay, go to JSON. Yeah, if you see here, right, this is the JSON which I created. So I gave bucket, full folders in my bucket should be accessible in my S3. Usually, guys, in any of the project you are deployed into or in the real time, right, they don't give to the complete bucket. They give only to the files which are required. Because if you give like this as a whole bucket, right, your data is like available in Snowflake, all the data, right? It shouldn't be the case. So this should be secured. So give only to the directory which is required to you. Don't give to the complete bucket. If you give to the complete bucket, there might be chances that your sensitive data also might be available in Snowflake, which is not acceptable, right? Like data which business doesn't need to see. If they try to see that, it would be a problem. Or if the data which some of the stakeholders which shouldn't be seeing, if they see the data, it would be a problem. So make sure that you give only to the directory which is required. Don't give star. Since I gave star to show you guys like some of the files which are failure, right, because of the schema mismatch and all. So I want to show you guys that one. So I just gave everything.
So Prithvi, why you gave delete object? I
mean, you should be able to do that, right? Like you should be able to remove that internal, stage file which is already there. Anything like delete object version, this can be there or cannot be there. It is up to you. This role, right, whatever policy we are creating, you can use to other operations as well. It is not only to Snowflake, right? When you create some policy, in usual projects, right, what we do is once you create a policy, that policy would be generic across. You can use that to Snowflake. You can use that to assign to any other roles, then to the users and everyone, right? So if you create a policy, make sure that it is useful to everyone. Multiple operations basically. Not only to Snowflake. If you create one policies to like individual objects and all, that would take a lot of things, right? You might be, it would be difficult to manage. So already like, what is that? AWS will create a lot of policies, internal policies. And if you keep adding your policies, it would be difficult to manage. In further, you will not be able to understand like what policy was assigned to which, and then it would be difficult to manage. So delete object version, you can use or cannot use, but that is one of the things which we create. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I told, right, use specific folder. Don't use star in your thing. If you want to try giving directories and check what happens, you can still go ahead and do that. But I'm telling the live scenario, don't use that. Okay. And going to the next one. See, as I told you guys, right, if you want to only read only from S3 bucket, if your project limits that you should only read, you shouldn't, write the data to S3, delete any of the things, do it in this way. Only get object version. Don't give delete and then do many of the things, right? What we did earlier, like, get object, delete object and all. Don't do that. Put object. Give only like read things alone, like get object alone. Okay. So doing to the next one, the next step would be review policy, as I told. So you need to review the policy and then just keep create policy. The next step would be that one. Okay, now this is done. Your policy is done. Now we need to create a role. For the role, go to roles in your left pane. Okay, once you go there, I already have Snowflake access role, but I'll show you guys the steps, right? How to create that. So give create role, give another AWS account. So account ID, see if you can see here, right? Create role button, give another AWS account, and account ID, select your account first. Okay, in the account ID field, enter your own AWS account temporarily. So for the AWS account, go to your this one, you'll see the account ID here. Copy this one and paste it here. Okay, so I'll just give till submit and then yeah. So I gave this one. Now what you need to do, give require external ID. Okay, see, select the require external ID option, enter the dummy ID. Later we will change these guys. Okay, once we get the Snowflake thing set up, right, we'll do that. Right now give 0000. Okay, that is what they told there. And later you'll modify the trusted relationship. We'll modify that once we go and check in the Snowflake. That will be there in the next steps. Click next button here. Okay, once that is done, it will create the policies. Okay, and then what you need to do, enter a name or description for the role and click role. So whenever you are creating this one, right, so I don't want anything now. So key option, IAM tags optional, I don't want anything. Role name, yeah, role name, you just need to give what role you need to I mean there'll be specific certain notations, right, which will be very easy to understand for you guys. Like I just gave Snowflake role, so you can give the same if required, like to be able to understand, right, what why this role is created. So give that role description. If you need, you can give like one liner, like this is used for Snowflake integration or something like that, and then just give create role. So you should be done with creating the role there. Okay, so that role I'll show you guys here, Snowflake access role. If you click on your role, yeah, you'll be seeing here. Okay, that role is created, and Snowflake access is the policy which we tagged there. Okay, so if you guys see here, right, create role button, and then 1 minute guys, just a second. Yeah, now what you need to do, record the ARN. Basically when you see here, right, you have an ARN created. Once you create the role, you'll have the ARN created. Copy this ARN. This would be useful in our Snowflake. Okay, so you'll create a Snowflake integration that references this role. Okay, now what you need to do, you need to create a cloud storage integration in Snowflake. In Snowflake, there is a command which we need to execute, where it integrates with the ARN which we created right now. Okay, so this is the command for that. That command I already executed it here, so you can see that, right? 1 minute guys. Yeah, if you see here, right, create or replace integration. S3 integration is the name which I gave. Okay, you can give whatever you want. S3 integration, and type is external stage. As I told, external stage, internal stage, the difference was like, guys, external stage you give whenever you are referencing to some external file system, right, like S3, Azure, GCP, and everywhere, right? Whatever, if you are referring to external, give external stage. That is all. There is no specific notation to this. Okay, storage provider would be S3 for me now, AWS S3. Enabled is true, and storage AWS ARN, the ARN which we saw here, right? We copied this, right? We need to just put here. Okay, and storage allowed locations, give the locations where you gave in your IAM policy. When you are creating IAM policy, you gave one bucket or the directory, right? Give the directory or the bucket here. Since I gave complete bucket, I just gave like this. If you are giving some specific bucket, give that. Okay, so once this you run the command, integration will be created. Okay, you can see the integration using describe integration, this one. You guys know this command, right? Describe table name, like that. The integration is one of the object in Snowflake. You can just give describe integration. Okay, integration name what you created in the above command. So now you will see here. Okay, enabled is true, and then you have S3, and then you have the file location, the bucket location where it is enabled, and then you have ARN created, AWS ARN in the external ID. So this external ID is very important now. Okay. So guys, whenever you run this command, that multiple times you run this command, this will keep changing. Okay. So when you run this command, make sure that this is updated in your policy. I'll show you how we need to attach to the policy, right? I'll show you. But one thing which you need to note is like, whenever you run this create or replace, this will get changed. So make sure this ID is copied and then pasted it in the trusted policy. I'll show you guys. Okay. This external ID is important now. See here. So that is what they were telling. Retrieve the AWS IAM, describe integration you need to do. You'll get all the things. So you need to take these two things. Okay. AWS IAM user ARN and the external ID, which you should see here, right? AWS IAM user ARN and the external ID. Please make note of these two things, and then we need to go next. So now grant the IAM user permissions to access the buckets.
Like in storage AWS external ID, why are you not giving the full path? Like you gave just S3, I just saw S3 and bucket name something. Yeah.
That is what I want to access, right?
Yeah, but full path,
full path. This is my full path. This is my bucket path, right? S3 and the bucket name, that's all.
Okay.
See, guys, this is one more thing, right? Bucket names in some of the standard things, what you need to follow is you need to give your AWS account name, basically. Okay. If you have this AWS, this is your account name, right? Give your account name before the bucket name, because that should be unique, you know, right? Bucket should be bucket name, whatever you're defining should be unique across Amazon accounts. It is not only your account or your organization, right? It should be unique across your, across the AWS. So that is why the reason in some of the projects or wherever examples you see, they'll be giving your subnet name actually. So that is why the reason it looks like some website URL or something. I don't know who asked the question, but it will look like that. Right now, I just gave only sample is my bucket name. It is looking like a folder name for you guys. But usually wherever you see bucket names, that will be, prepended with subnet name or the account name, whatever they have, so that it will be unique across. Okay, but this is what, this is my bucket name. Yeah, so that's why the reason.
So I thought, okay, both are in like same region, so you gave like this. Yeah.
No, it is not like that.
Okay, then.
Yeah. So once that is done, what we need to do is like next step, right? So now you are giving this IAM user whatever you created, right? You're basically giving permissions to Snowflake to read and write to that bucket. Okay. Now what you need to do, you just need to give the roles in the left pane, whatever we did earlier, trust relationships. Okay. Edit trust relationship. This trust relationship, before creating that, this would be like some random AWS ID. Okay. So what you need to do, take this IAM user ARN and then copy it here. Okay. Again as the AWS. And then take the external ID and copy that external ID here. This is what I was talking about, right? The multiple times you refresh this one, this ID would be changed. You need to go and change here again and then give the update trust policy. Okay. Make sure of this, guys, when you're doing lab sessions, if you're creating these multiple times, actually I face this issue, right? Whenever, when I created this one, then I copied one ID to here and then I randomly resubmitted this. And then this ID got changed and I forgot to change it here. And then there was a connection issue and then I was not able to load the data. So make sure that you edit this one and then make sure this ID is updated here. Okay. So once this is done, what happens was like, see here. So this is what you'll have earlier before, updating that. You need to do that. Now the integration is like established between Snowflake and the role what we created. Okay. So once that is done, run these two grant commands on the integration and the stage what we created already. Okay. So The stage which I created was this one. The same command how we created internal stage, right? That would be the same. See here, create or replace stage. Integration, you mentioned what integration we already created, right? As part of the integration, we created S3 integration, right? The same S3 integration you mentioned when creating the stage. Give the URL to what bucket you have access to, okay? And then give what file format you are having in that particular bucket, what you are going to read basically. Okay, now here my thing was like CSV file format. Okay, now what we need to do, so go to S3 stage and just list that stage, and you'll be seeing this one. Okay, so list command is same for both internal stage, external stage. Yeah, if you see here, these are the files which are available in my bucket, right? So stage upload, food establishment, orders, output data, and these things. Okay, so go to the bucket and you will be seeing all these things there. Okay, so that is what is that. So inside output directory also, whatever are there, it will put everything out there. Okay, these are the files which I have now. So what we need to do is, okay, so 1 minute, guys. Yeah, just a second. Yeah, so here, this is the command. So once file is available in your stage, right? This is the command which loads the data into table. Okay, so my S3 stage table is already available, which I created. Okay, so this has some 5 fields in it. Okay, and these 5 fields I was just loading. Okay, these 5 fields file whichever is having, we were loading into this table. I'm telling forcefully do that. Okay, on error, skip the file. If some file is having error, skip that file. So whenever you run this command, right, what happens, it will show you, okay, what was the error. If some file fails, right, it will show you what was the error. See here, so there are 3 files with CSV in that particular bucket which got loaded. It parsed two rows, and the error was like number of columns were mismatched. Okay, because that file, whatever is there in S3, doesn't match with the schema what we created in the S3 stage table. Okay, so it will clearly give you what file it was, part.csv. Okay, this CSV file doesn't match with the schema, so we didn't load that. And this file got loaded successfully. This is the file which we are expecting to get loaded, stage upload. Okay, and then number of rows parsed this one, number of rows loaded this one, error limit is 1. So all these things are like set up. And then this is also failed because this is having 4096 rows, but field delimiter is different. Okay, so I want to show you guys like 2 different errors. So I gave the bucket name directly instead of giving a folder and then showing only positive thing, right? So like this, you will see now. So what I'll do is like the file which is loaded already, right? Stage upload.csv. So let us modify something and then upload it to S3 bucket. Okay, then you'll see the difference, right? So stage upload, what I'll do is I'll just add one more record to this. Okay, just give claim E. Okay, claim E is what I added there. Closing that. And then what we'll do is, first thing what we'll do is we'll delete the data from this table completely. Okay, delete from this one. Okay, 25 rows deleted. So now what you need to do, just upload this to the bucket what we have already. Okay, I'm uploading this one, add files. Okay, so I'm selecting this stage file, upload this file. So this should be uploaded in some time. Yeah, this is uploaded now. Okay, so stage upload is uploaded today now. Okay, and what we need to do, we'll run the command once again. So before doing that, what we will do is like we will see this. Okay, so whenever you list the stage, right, we'll just see my S3 stage. When did this get uploaded? Is this updated? Yes, right? 6th of November, it got updated just now. So your S3 stage is like always it will tune to S3, so it will be updated every time. The only thing what you need to do is run this copy command, okay, once again to see if the data is loaded. Yep, see, I added one more row. Earlier it was 7 rows, guys. Now one more row got added. It was 8 now. Okay, so data got added now to this table. So if you see this one, 8 rows got loaded. Claim me or something. Yeah. So this got added now, right? So this is how we load the data into Snowflake using the stage. Okay. In the same way, what you need to do is for JSON file, right? JSON file, it is like any other file. Okay. There is nothing different in, creating the JSON file. It is the same thing how you load the CSV file. The only difference was like file format is different. That's all. Okay. So for creating JSON, basically you need to have data type as variant. Okay, variant is like you can load any of the data into that. Okay, semi-structured data basically. Okay, I created already a table with orders. Okay, which is of type variant. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll just delete the data from here. Okay, delete from orders. So now my data got deleted. I'll show you guys what is the JSON file which we uploaded, right? So this is some of the JSON sample file. Yeah, just a second. So I'm downloading this file. Let us see what is that. Open with, but I think let me do one thing. This is not bad. This would be good. Okay. Anyways, let's see the content. I don't have editor in my machine to do that. Let's run this one and then see the content once it is loaded into table, guys. Okay. Where is this one? Yeah. If you see here, right, it is same as you do the CSV file. The only thing was file format would be JSON and pattern is like pattern. Here I gave just CSV files to show you guys the error files, right? Whatever schema is not matching, we just need to see the errors, what it is throwing. So we gave that. For JSON, just give the file name directly. Orders.json is what you are going to load anyways, right? So just give that file name directly in the pattern and then give copy into orders this JSON. Okay. Now one created is not 1 minute, guys. Okay, orders.json. Just a second. Something happened with it. Orders.json is already there. It's not loading. Yeah, 1 minute. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm keeping this way. What is the problem here? Type equal to JSON, my S3 stage is what we created. There is a file already in S3 stage, right? Is it not happening? Just a second, guys. There is a file already present. What is the problem with it? Okay, let us upload the file once again and see, right? This is only taking latest ones. Okay. So does it have this one? What is happening? Mm. Yeah, for some reason this is working. This is the problem with external stager. Even in our current project, right, we face this error a lot of times. This doesn't refresh every time, and then what is going wrong? File format, it might be strange. Let us see with the force option. Sometimes, right, like this force option, even in some of the blogs when data is not getting loaded, see, I don't know why this is like force option is like working. So guys, this is like, I don't know if this is a bug from Snowflake, but force option when you give, data is getting loaded. That is what I was seeing in some of the blogs yesterday. They were telling like whenever they give only, this one force option to load, only then data is getting loaded. So, I mean, that is why the reason, right? Mostly, as per my experience, guys, we don't use this external stage, internal stage, because almost like whenever creating external stage, we have an option called auto refresh. Okay, so auto refresh equal to true if you put usually that whatever files you load into S3, it should be refreshing and then the table should automatically get refreshed. Okay, but that will not happen all the time. So that is why the reason we are like, we'll take a step back to use this external stage, because for some reason think that if you are manually working on a thing, right? Hello.
Yeah.
You guys are with me, right? I was thinking
Yeah,
it was very silent and I thought I got dropped off in between here.
Okay. Actually, is it possible for you to send this a script?
I'll do that. I'll do that, guys. I'll do that because there are a lot of steps, right? I'll send you guys. So usually what happens, right? So if you're doing a manual thing, you can go and see in external stage if the file is like refreshed, and then you can go to table and see if my records are like loaded with the latest file. Okay, that would happen when you do manually. Okay, think that you're running a job. Okay, in between there is some problem with the auto refresh. In that case, you'll be losing the data, right? So that is why the reason most of the times we don't, rely on these auto refresh or like external stage, internal stages and all. This thing we do only when analyzing. So in our current project, we use only for analyzing the data which is there in S3 rather than downloading the file and opening in Notepad, right? What we do is we create a stage like this and then just load into table and then see the data, how data looks. And then for some analyzing like joins and all, we do that. Okay, so force, if you apply force, it worked, right? So now what we need to do, I'll just show you guys how this table looks first, right? So yeah, so select star. If you give querying JSON is a bit different in Snowflake. I'll show you. Yeah, this is the thing. There are two JSON objects present in that file. One is this one, the other one is this one. Okay, there are two different things. So to query comments or customer number or this one between two objects, how we need to give is like, I just need to give orders is my column name, right? So you just need to give orders, okay, colon comments. If you want to read comments between both of them, you just need to give this one. So it will read comments from the two objects. So if you need to read something else, right? Let me show you that as well. So give select star. Okay. So if we give select star, let me read discount. Okay. So we just need to give discount here. Okay. So if you read discount, you'll be getting this. So yeah, so this is how we need to read the data. So most of the times, guys, as my real experience, right? So what we do was like, you don't directly load JSON into Snowflake. What we do was you parse this file in your programming language, either Spark or Python or Java, Scala, anything, right? Parse the JSON, convert it to data frame, load it into table. Rather than you having it here and then, the main reason why we don't query loading JSON and try to query, right? Think that you want to perform some operations on the columns. You want to add some 2 records or something. Okay. Basically, you need to add 2 fields, right? I want to add the amounts of 2 fields in a row or something like that. Your query looks complicated, right? Now I need to just give orders discount plus orders this one, or you need to add multiple functions, and querying would be difficult. And then the data types, mostly data types. Now it would, in some cases, right, if it is a variant or type and then you loaded JSON, sometimes Snowflake would automatically detect what data type it was. Okay. In some cases where you have some special characters in it and then you want to load the data, there are certain cases, right? In numeric fields, you might get some special characters by mistake or something like that. In those cases, if you try loading JSON, you doesn't know, right? JSON, that field might have anything. And if you try loading that, and if you leave that to Snowflake to infer the schema, you might be getting this as a different type. And if you try having some function as add or subtract, or you're doing any arithmetic function, you might be running into errors. So that is why the reason semi-structured data, if your requirement forces you to load JSON as is, do that. Okay. If you're getting some source file as JSON, and ultimately you need to do some operations on that data, my preference or suggestion would be parse the JSON in your Spark code or Python, and then upload the as a table. Don't upload this as JSON file and then try parsing in Snowflake. You might run into issues because in lot of data related input files, right, you might be seeing some junk characters, you might be seeing some wrong data and all. So my suggestion, or it is recommended, basically, whenever you get some other file format, CSV, you leave it. Like CSV, it's fine. CSV, you can split as using comma and then load that. But coming to JSON, it is better you parse it beforehand using there are a lot of JSON parsers, right, in Python or in Java and everywhere. Use those parsers and then parse the data, put the schema correctly, and then load the data. That's what I want to tell. Okay, so this is how we load the JSON file. It is all the same. So commands would be same, everything would be same. The only thing was use this commands. If it is like type JSON, type CSV, type Avro, there are multiple file types which Snowflake supports, right? Everything you can load the data into tables. So this you can use for reference purpose in analyzing the data and all. So this is all with loading the data. So Snowpipe is nothing but automated thing which runs this command after every certain time. Okay, so that thing would depend on your SNS topics, right? You guys already worked on SNS, I guess, right? So Sai was telling me SNS, SQS and all, you guys already worked in AWS lab sessions. So it is all the same. So whenever you are creating a pipe, you have an option to subscribe to SNS topics. Okay, so if you see this one, I'll give this as well. It is same as configuring how we did for integration, right? S3 external stage integration. For Snowpipe also do the same integration, create a role, create this one. You can use the same role as well, guys, whatever we created. For Snowflake S3 integration, whatever we created, it is the same thing. Okay, so do this one, and then we need to give the SNS topic basically whenever you are creating the Snowflake here. Snowpipe, basically, sorry. So create or replace pipe, my pipe, Auto ingest is true. For auto ingest true, you need to mention the SNS topic. There is one parameter called SNS underscore topic. You need to subscribe to the topic. And after this, everything is same. However, you use this command, right? Copy into command. Use the same command what you used for your files. Okay. If you are trying to ingest JSON files using Snowpipe, use this format and just attach to the Snowpipe command. That's all. Copy into that S3 stage using JSON files. The only thing what you need to do is set up the SNS and then add the topic here, so that whenever S3 there is a change in S3, you would receive message in SNS, and SNS in turn that Snowflake also will tune to that SNS. Whenever you receive a message, it will trigger the Snowpipe command, and then table would be refreshed automatically. So again, as I told, right, there might be challenges in that, like sometimes your SNS topic might not be receiving, or like, data would not be refreshed, or those kind of things would always be there. So I prefer doing it through, ETL tool like Spark, Snowflake, or any Spark, Scala, Python, or anything else. So yeah, it is like the same copy command which we do. There is nothing different in that. Yeah. So this is all on loading data, and then from S3, from internal stage, from your internal machine, and yeah, that is what is that. Any questions here, guys? I'll basically, as requested, right, I'll paste all these things. Guys can make sure that you work on these things. So just give, what can I give? Guys, one thing, like let me, tell me, where should I upload these files? Like whenever we complete a session, right? If you have some SharePoint location or anything else, give me that so that I can upload there, or I'll make it as an attachment in Zoom if that is available. I'm not sure if that is available, but
you can just send it in the group chat here right now.
Yeah, I think that would be better.
Which one? Sorry?
The Zoom group chat?
That's what. So can I send there then?
Yeah, you can send it.
Yeah, okay. Okay, then that would be fine. Yeah. At the end of the class, can someone remind me so that I can put all these things there? Okay, I'm copying this link as well so that it would be useful. It is all the same what we followed for the other one, right? Those are the same steps. Create the role, create the policy, attach that to your Snowflake account, and then create the SNS and subscribe to the topic. That's all. Okay, and then this one is already there. I have that. And yeah, Snowflake SQL integration, right? This is what did I copy earlier? First one. Just a second, guys. Sorry. This is the first link I copied, right? Okay, let me copy this link as well. So this is for SnowSQL installation, and this is for storage integration. Okay.
If you can share this recording today only, it will be helpful for us so that we can.
Yeah. I'll make sure I do that immediately after this call, right? I'll talk to them and then I'll ask them to share that.
We didn't get the old recordings also.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I'll do that, guys. I'll do that. Yeah. Yeah. And Snowpipe is this one, and the next one would be connecting to Snowflake, right? From some sample Python code. So I have PyCharm installed in my machine. Let me show you guys that connection. That is like, connecting to any other database, right? Do you guys have experience in connecting to databases through programming languages like Python and all? Any other prior experience?
No.
Okay. You just need to give the account name, password, username, and how you connect, right? Basically, you just need to give those connection details, and it's like a JDBC connection. So it is like you'll have Snowflake connector, and we just need to give that Snowflake connection details, the account name, password, and everything, and then we should be good with it. So these things also, I have certain commands which we need to run. Let me give that as well, guys, so that guys can use them. One minute. Yeah. Okay. So okay, so guys, I just gave the sample code to connect to Snowflake, right? So this Snowflake connector we need to install using pip install, right? You can just give pip install snowflake.connector. You'll be getting that, and then pandas also we need to install using the same command, pip install pandas. So both should be available. So we need to use these commands as the import things. So we need to import those libraries to connect to Snowflake and all. So this Snowflake connector is what I'm talking about. So this connector is like JDBC or like, connector where we'll be connecting to Snowflake from this particular Python code. Okay. So it is just like you need to give snowflake.connector.connect. Okay. You need to give your username, password, account details, and what database you're going to connect, what schema you're going to connect, and what is your warehouse if required. Okay. Warehouse is not necessarily required because I just have only one warehouse, right? So query, you can mention what query you need to do. Okay, right now I'm querying the JSON from orders, right? So I'm doing that. And so from pandas, I have a read query method. Okay, so that read query method, I just gave the query and the connection details. Okay, so we just need to give the cursor here. Cursor is just having your query there. Okay, whatever you do here, the connection details and all, you're just storing that, and then you're executing the query here. Okay, so I'm storing the result set into data frame. Data frame is nothing but like table in Python. I think most of you guys are like aware of Python. That's what I heard. So yeah, so if I run this program, right, what it usually does, it takes this connection details, connect to Snowflake. What it does was it takes the data and then it runs this query and then gives the data set. That's what it does. So before doing this, like make sure you have all the required permissions for this user and whatever user you are using here, right? User, so that user have all the access querying this table. Make sure that. Okay, so this is the data which we got, right? The JSON what we saw earlier. So that is the data we got. Okay, so you can query any table, any data from here, and then execute commands as well. A lot of things, but the only thing which I tell you, right, as I told you in the initial classes, don't hard code username, passwords, account, database schema in here. Take it from the config files, externalize that, basically create a file here, import that from the file, use it as a variable, or like pass it through your program arguments. So that what happens, right, whenever you're like changing your database, suppose think that now you're working on one database and you need to change that after like few days. In that case, what happens, if you externalize these things, it would be easier to change the config file rather than going to Python code and then changing them. Okay, that is the only reason we externalize the things. And the other thing would be the security. Okay, so in live project, guys, like I just want to tell you, right, how this is handled, these things, like so what we usually do was we create one file as the properties file. Okay, do you guys know about properties file? Properties is one of the file type, like CSV, JSON, Avro. Properties is one of the file type. Any of you guys are aware of that properties file?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah. So properties file is nothing but you have key value pairs in it. Okay. So it is like, let me show you one of the example, right? I can show you in Google itself rather than we typing everything and then do. Yeah. So properties file is nothing but key value pairs. You just have one key and value as, associated to that. Okay. Extension of that file would be dot properties. Okay. That's why we tell that is a file type. Okay. Properties file sample. Okay, this properties file mostly this is supported in all the programming languages to parse, right? So let me show you guys in Python itself. One minute, guys. Yeah, if you see here, they were using config parser to do that. So this how file looks, right? It looks in this way. If you see here, there is a key and there is a value. There is a key and there is a value. Okay, it is pretty much like that. So all the database properties like database usernames, passwords, and everything, right? In any of the project you see, basically we store them in the properties file as key value pairs. Like my username is this one, database password is this one, database URL is this one, and everything. And then you store this in S3. Okay. So what we do is from S3, because you know S3 is like the buckets what you create, the folders what you create are already encrypted or already like secured, because there are roles assigned to that, there are users assigned to that, and there is like a secured layer on top of those files, right? So rather than having it in your Python zip file, or like if it is Java in the jar file, we upload these files to S3. Okay, in S3 what we do, from S3 we read this file when you start your code. Okay, and you load this into your collections, and then use this across, like database username, password, everything is in your collection right now, so you can use across your program to read wherever required. Okay, so instead of hard coding these ones, we do in this way. And there should be multiple parameters files when you work on a project, guys. Like one should be like for usernames, passwords, and database connection details, right? The other should be your application wise parameters. Like if you're taking some of the inputs, right? Like I have my source file location, where I need to place my destination file, what what kind of thing, like what bucket details are there, those kind of things you need to make it in a separate file. In properties file especially, you should have only connection details. That is what is accepted, and then it is preferred to. So in the project which we were working right now, properties file is especially for database connections. And then the other config files, application config file should be separated out. You shouldn't club both these ones, because this data is sensitive data, and you only certain people should have access to. I mean, everyone in the project cannot go and modify the data over there. So only like Snowflake admin team, right? They'll be having access to accessing that file. Whenever there is some change in the credentials or so, they'll go there and change that parameters. So but all the developers or anyone might not be having access to that. And application user anyways, whenever we are running an application or like connecting, application user will have all the privileges. As I told you earlier, you'll have access to S3, you'll have access to all the AWS services, you'll have access to Snowflake, complete access. Whatever system admin has, every access you'll have for the application user. That is how you need to create the application user. So yeah, that is all the thing, right? So whenever you create passwords, usernames and all, make sure you externalize that. Don't club with codes. Yeah, so this is about connecting to Snowflake from Python. So it is like a pretty simple thing, connecting to Python. So this code, guys, do you want this code as well, or like this you can get it in anything as well? But let me give you guys. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just change these things and give you. All the credentials and all, and then you, okay, you guys connect to this. Yeah, Okay, so I'll ping you guys this as well, Snowflake Python code. And yeah, so any questions guys till here, like what would be used in live scenarios? Any questions till the topic we covered right now, or like any other things, right? Whatever discussed we discussed till now from day one. You guys can go ahead and ask me like any real-time scenarios, right? How would we handle that? You might be getting a lot of questions, right? How would we handle that? It might be related to this skill set or anything, right? I'll try my level best to answer them. Like any real-time scenarios, how would we handle that? Yeah, anything guys, anything is like okay for me. You guys can ask any questions. Let's keep it very interactive, right? Like you guys can ask me like you're asking any other colleague. So go ahead and ask me like if you guys have any doubts in real time, how we do that, how would we achieve that?
So like, this is completely new for me. I've never done this before. So for now, I don't have questions though, but I have to perform this.
Sorry. Can you please be clear?
Yeah, I was saying that. This is completely new for me.
Okay.
Like I've never done this, so in order for me to get questions, like I have to perform this in order to get doubts and then get questions like that. So right now I don't have any questions, but
okay,
I will perform this, and if I get stuck somewhere, I will ask you the question.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you know, if you are new to this, then you might be having a lot of questions actually. How these three things are integrated, how you work with S3.
I mean, like, so I didn't exactly understood the meaning of property files. If you can explain that again. Other than that, like I understood that you're loading data from S3 bucket.
Okay.
And file, I get all that. It's just that I've never done this using Snowflake. So
okay.
Perform it in order to get doubts.
Okay, so properties file, it is like any other file format. Okay, so why we call that properties file is like, you know, some of the programming languages, they have parsers to that. Okay, you can just have internal parser. See, if that is like CSV file, right? What you usually do, you need to mention comma, you need to give what data type was that, and do all those things, and then you need to parse it, right? For properties file, how it looks like, right? Username, okay, you just have equal to is the delimiter by default for the properties file. Okay, you just give some random thing, right? Username, okay, and then give password, give some random name. Okay, so this is what is your properties file. This is what you have, no header, nothing. Okay, so this you give to your input to your Java code or like Python code. What it does was it automatically you know, parses this one and give this as your key value pair. This is your key, this is your value, this is your key, this is your value. It automatically knows that before equal to is my key and after equal to is my value. So you give basically database username, database password and everything, right? In your key, use that properties parser and then parse this file and put it in the key value pair. Okay, use this in your code whenever there is username required, whenever there is a password required, rather than hard coding these values. Put it in the file, get it into collection, and then use that. Okay, why we especially use this in properties file is the because the parsing would be easier there. Okay, and also don't store any other things except DB related, like, you know, config related stuff, like connection details, usernames, passwords and all, right? Only those things should be stored in the properties file. Other application things and all, if anything is required, store it in the other file. That's what I'm telling. So properties file is especially for the connection details.
Sure.
Yeah, to externalize basically. Don't hard code in the code. So
yeah, for security purposes, we don't hard code it because
exactly. So this is what these 5 details better store it in the properties file. As simple as that. Give username equal to that one, password equal to this one, account is this one, so that when you have some you know, username changed, right? I don't need to go to Python code and change this one. Directly download this file from S3. Change the value against this 1 2 3 is changed to 3 4 5. Just go ahead and change to 3 4 5. That's all, and your code will keep working in the same way. You don't need to go to change, modify something, and then you deploy the file, run the code once again, and do all those things. So that's why the reason we externalize everything as much as possible, right guys? Externalize everything. That's what I want to tell. Separate out your configurations with your code. Don't club both of them, because it might be difficult to change whenever there is like changes actually. So yeah, that's what I want to tell. Like in most of the not most of the projects, like every project, right, you externalize like a lot of things. Code should be separated out.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So any other questions, guys? Any other questions from anyone?
So Prithvi, like
Yeah.
I have one question.
Uh-huh.
So you showed us like how to load from S3 to like Snowflake, how to load the data from, yeah. So like how do you load the data from S3 to multiple Snowflake, multiple tables in Snowflake?
This is all right. So once you get your external stage created, right? So this is your S3 stage now. So once you got the stage files, you can load any file into any table. It is all the copy command which you need to run here. See now, now what happened? One of the CSV file here we loaded to this table. In the JSON file we loaded into orders table. Like that, how many ever commands files you have, that many commands you need to run basically. Or suppose think that in a particular S3 bucket, you have all the files with the same schema. In that case, if you run this single command, right, since I gave the pattern as like .start.csv, it takes all the CSV files irrespective of the name, right? It takes all the CSV files and load the data into this table. Suppose think that there are 5 files. Okay, each file has 5 columns in it. It loads all that 5 files into this table. If your format should be same, given that your format should be same, that's the only condition you have.
But if the file have relational relation database, like if there is two tables like employee and departments like that, so how can we do that?
That's what. So here you need to mention the file name rather than giving the pattern, right? So this pattern is like regex pattern. Okay, like regular expression I am giving, do for all the files. How we did for orders.json, create one more file in this CSV format and then load that into other table. So suppose think that you have this one, right? Let me give you an example and give you. Okay, so now you have this one. Create 2 copy commands. Okay, give here employee.json. Think that employee file is already available. Okay, employee.json. Okay, you have the other one as like what is that, employee and the department, right? Department.csv. Okay, 2 files you have. This one you need to load to S3 employee table. Okay, you cannot load everything at the same time. You cannot join and then load. You need to load and then do your performing your operations on that. Now you have S3 employee table, you have S3 department table.
Like my question was like, if one file have 2 datas, like employee data
have,
and
right?
department.
How can you have one file with different data sets? That is not possible, right? See, a file is like, if a file is there, you'll have schema associated to that file. You have call 1, call 2, call 3. Okay. How can you have multiple fields? Like now this is employee related data might have 5 columns. Your department related might have only 4 columns. If you have like this, right? You have after 10 rows, you have call 1, call 2, call 3 and call 4. This file is not CSV file. Any programming code will not detect this file. This is wrong file. You should have generic across the file. If you are having CSV file, make sure that your columns are same across the data, across the file. You cannot have like 10 records for employee, from 11th record to 20th record for department. You cannot have that. This is not organized file, right? So when you are working on the CSV files or anything, make sure that that complete file has same number of columns. If not, you'll get the error telling that, see, this is what the error you will face, right? If you see here, right? If I run this one, earlier I was running this, right? See, if you run this one, you will see the error there. Error that number of columns doesn't match. That's what error you'll see every time. See here, number of columns does not match that the current corresponding table. Your input table, whatever you are mentioning in the copy command, has only 5 columns. in the file you have multiple columns, that is not possible. I mean, the first thing was your file doesn't have like 2 variants of data. That is the first thing. You shouldn't have employee data and then department data in the same file. It means that that file is not a proper CSV file.
So like what I'm saying is like column 1 and column 2 is related to employee, and column 3 is for department, say, let's say. So how can we do that?
If you want to do that, load that to a temporary table, okay, like what we do here, and then split up the columns however you want to do. So first thing is like, see this internal stage, external stage, whenever you create, the first motto is to you to load the data into some table. From there, do whatever operations you need. From now your data is available in the S3 table, correct? Think that your column 1, column 2 is your employee data. Okay. Now I'm selecting from this one. Okay. Take an example of this itself. Okay. Now you're telling that first 2 columns are my employee, 3, 4, 5 are my department columns, correct?
Yeah.
So, once this data is loaded, it is like you query this data as employee, select name, inspection result from S3 stage table. That will be your employee data. And the other 3 columns would be your department data. But while loading, you cannot do that. Loading, you cannot tell that these 2 columns load into this table and these 2 columns load into this table. Because that file is available, first load that file into your table. Only then your data will be available to Snowflake. You got my point, right? See, the thing was actually only here your data will get passed in, loaded to table. The stage, whatever you created, the stage data is like temporary data. You cannot query this data.
Okay.
You should run copy command and then load the data. Only then you can perform your transformations or split up the columns or do whatever you want. You can do only after loading into one table. The initial recommendation was first load into one table, whatever data, raw data you receive from that file, and then perform the operations whatever you want.
Okay, Prithvi. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually, right? I mean, I don't know who asked the question, but usually.
Sudhira.
Yeah, Sudhira. Hi, Sudhira. So you won't get 2 different data in one single file, Sudhira. Any source system, right? Anything which generates the data, you get in different files. I understood your scenario. You're thinking loud, and then you're thinking like if 2 related data gets in same file, but that is not possible. Department data, employee data is 2 different entities. Okay. You'll have a key which is relating those 2 files, like a primary key, foreign key, right? If employee ID has like 10 columns, employee data has 10 columns, you'll have one employee ID column, which is primary key. The same employee ID column you'll have in department as well. Okay, to relate both the files, but you'll not get different data in same file. That is not possible for the upstream systems. Also, that is not acceptable.
Yeah. Okay, Prithvi.
Yeah. So in real time, that scenario is not possible. That's what I want to tell you. Yeah. And guys, can you help me out, like where this file I can attach, or like, or do we need to put it in the chat itself? That's what I'm thinking.
The links you can paste in the chat so we can bookmark them as fast as we can.
No, I think there is something called attach here. Let me attach these guys and let me know if you are able to download that. Okay. Yeah, I'll just tell you. You can tell me if that is downloadable. Downloads. Where is it stored into? Okay, let me give this a sample. I think. Let me save this first. And wait, the other one is that load unload, right? This is also in documents. Yeah, let me upload this. Guys, if you don't have any questions, let me stop the recording and then we will continue with that. Okay.
Prithvi, I have a doubt regarding properties files. So
Okay.
basically, you're putting your credentials into the file and accessing it internally rather than displaying it, right? Every time.
Correct. Yeah.
Is this similar to the git ignore which we use? Because even in git ignore, you store your credentials from the AWS, like your secret key ID and everything.
It is the same way, but this is of the file type rather than storing it in the Git repository, right? This is of the file type. So you store it as a file and then you access it. Basically, what we do is like there are multiple ways, right? You can store it in that way. There is something called earlier we used to see some Git password manager or something. There you can do. But this one basically what you can do is like you can have multiple things, application related as well. This properties file, right? DB related, application related, anything you can use. This is a file type. That's all. As you told, it is the same thing. Rather than connecting to the repository, here we directly read from the file. As you read CSV file, read it in that way and then do that. Anyways, see, your program will be connected to S3, connect in the same way and then read this file as well before you starting your program.
Okay.
Rather than connecting to the third-party tools and then fetching the data from there, the one major thing, right? You don't know how that is secured also. If you place this file in S3, your organization has control over that, correct? You have the account created, you have S3 buckets and all, you have access and you have control over that. So that is the major reason whenever you're storing passwords, these things and all, we prefer doing into S3 buckets or something, because that is all like secured and our organization has control on that. Rather than putting in some third-party tools, reading from there, you don't know how that it might be compromised, and also it's better as much as possible whatever tools you are using in your project, put it there rather than using some third-party rule and then you need to get license for that and all this stuff, right? So we prefer S3 basically in everything whatever projects I worked in now, we store these properties files in S3. We don't store it in the password managers and all.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Any other questions, guys? Or we are good till now what we had? Okay. So I'll take it as a no and then I'll stop recording.